West has many of the urban qualities, certainly not the population. But this is also a different type of refuge. But it has a human scale, which I do liken it to some of the environment that New York offers. You know, in the city, you're always running into people you know. Everyone thinks that, oh, there's a trillion people. I'm always running into people.
But do you ever run into somebody that you like? I find I always run into my enemies, people I owe money to.
And then you walk across the street.
I do a lot of zipping. I'm so quick. Nobody sees me. I'm in doorways. I'm behind
hats?
cars.
You wear hats?
Of course. And huge sunglasses.
Yeah, that's right. Well, in Key West, it's an openness, though. You know, there's a human scale here, and that was my point. In your stories, you have a connection that you're like and I mean this in a positive way, you have it like a drone, you know, you're flying over and you're observing the foibles and the vagaries and the vicissitudes of people. And I want you to read one of your short stories, if you would.
Of course.
Of course, this is from Will Wright for Compliments, and I think this best describes some of how you see life on the street.
Which one will it be?
Well,
First, I have to get my glasses.
The one that is a good introduction, I think, Night.
Sure.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Night it is.
And folks, yes, you can get this book on all the usual outlets, as well as Island Books.
Exactly.
Okay.
Support our local bookstore or Amazon. All right. Key West, Saturday, midnight. The main street was predictably clogged with revelers. My attention was splintered by the multitude of merry distractions, and I almost tripped over a month-old chicken. It darted from the sidewalk to the gutter, frenzied, squeaking, and lost. Its feathers were tones of grey and muddy browns. With rapid steps, it zigzagged, bleating and panicked. I considered repatriating it, but I could not see its flock. I pictured picking it up, and then, well, exactly, and then what? I shook off the guilt and walked away. From an alley came kids screaming and leaping, each equipped with laser swords and walkie-talkies. They barreled by in a cloud of noise and vanished around a corner. A thin, long-haired man with a top hat played a guitar and sucked on a harmonica attached to a neck brace. A suntanned man was using his cell phone to photograph a girl. She stood on the hood of a parked car and pulled up her miniskirt, revealingly. "This is for you," she was saying to him before falling over backwards to the ground. Music thumped from everywhere. People strolled about carrying beer in clear plastic beakers. Standing frozen and alone on a wood crate at a busy intersection, a green sequin Elvis impersonator, a study in calm amidst the chaos. A lithe female in spandex and super high-heeled shoes swished by, her muscular rump high and solid, her torso tiny, all of her unreal-looking. It got late, maybe 3 a.m, and the streets were sticky with spilled beer. Herds of young men stumbled with arms around each other's necks, sweating alcohol. Couples argued sloppily in doorways. Close to home, I saw the little chicken. It laid across the roots of a tree, on its side, crumpled sort of, panting. Not the fittest. Thanks for laughing.
Oh, it's delightful. You seem to cast a beacon on that which people in their traveling overlook. And
which is what?
It's about being in the moment, truly being present. Now, but when you come up with a story idea, do you flesh it out with an amalgam, or do you observe a distinct arc, and then, what is the process when you capture these little vignettes?
It's always kind of different. I see, I can't help but walk around this. It's so invigorating, the town of Key West. Every single time that I take a walk, I see something that I want to remember. And so the stories are often just mashups, I suppose that's the new word, isn't it, of loads of things that I've seen, and they come out in the story in a linear way, but I may not have seen it that way. I use them more like ingredients in a soup, so I go home and then throw together what.
Seasoning.
Yes, exactly. A bit of chicken, bit of this, bit of that. Yeah. Dead chicken.
They're everywhere, too.
They're everywhere.
Do you have a love-hate thing with the chickens?
I love
chickens. Well, give it time. You'll get over that, too.
Do you hate?
No, I have a love and hate thing. Sometimes it's like, I love that they're wild. They just run anywhere, and they're smart. They're a lot smarter than people give them credit for. But we're going to stay true to our conversation here when we come back with Christina Oxenberg. It's Art Waves here in the Konk Broadcasting Network. We're back with Art Waves. I'm your host, Michael Shields, here for the Konk Broadcasting Network. My guest this morning, Christina Oxenberg, we're reading some selections from Will Write for Compliments.
And write for food, too.
And
right.
for food, victuals, treats, and delights.
Exactly.
Are you a drinker?
I drink a lot of water.
Okay, but not alcohol?
No alcohol.
No alcohol?
And I'm not a recovering alcoholic.
Oh, okay.
No offense to recovering alcoholics.
No. But do you like coffee?
No, I don't drink coffee either.
What happened?
It's a strange thing.
Tea?
I do drink a bit of tea. Okay. Green tea.
Green tea.
Yeah.
Well,
Why am I a health nut?
No, are you?
Not really, actually. I eat health nuts.
The bread or the cereal?
I'm not going to go into details.
Okay. Well, what new idea or innovation is having the most significant impact on publishing today? And I ask this because you, as a writer, have the challenge that every artist does of getting your work seen or heard or installed or displayed. And you mentioned early that the Island Bookstore, it's our last bookstore.
Right.
The very last one. And it's hanging on by a thumbnail.
Yeah.
But it does feature, and always has, local writers. And so it's now the only place to pick up books, unless you go to the CVS and Walgreens. There's always a little checkout stand of some local authors. Because people, that's their only chance to, I found a book here in Key West.
Right.
Not everyone's going to make the trek down to one bookstore on Fleming Street. So is this book, how did you get this published?
Well, weirdly enough, the world has come met writers halfway. It's a writer's world all of a sudden. All the other art forms are able to make their presence known on the World Wide Web, but for writers, it's the simplest medium. You can publish yourself, and I'm doing that now. I was published by Simon & Schuster years ago with my first book, my second book actually, but with my
And the title of that is?
Royal Blue.
Royal Blue, okay.
But those days are over, and I'm all for it. I think that it's truly democratic, that absolutely anybody can publish a book, and that it will survive on its merit. It's no longer up to the insecurities and bad decision-making of editors and agents and publishing houses through the years who've had this, this obstacle really to the reading public and what they want. And it was always so many things were just assumed. For example, collections of short stories were just dismissed as, lightweight, worthless, whatever. For whatever reason, publishing houses decided that they were, not something to back, and they were not serious. Mm-hmm. Or even if they were serious, they weren't big money makers. When in fact now, we live in an ADD world. People don't have any time. They would actually. We all might want to read a novel, but you're more likely to be able to get through a short story, and the shorter the better. And if it's entertaining, that's a big plus. So I think that I think a lot of people want to write, and I say go for it, because you can just reach your public immediately. And advertising has now, gone into this strange new world where advertising is sort of backwards, where the consumer will find you.
Mm-hmm.
You just put your stuff up, and if people like it, they'll word of mouth. All of these things will work for you. So the writer finally has a chance to get some attention.
So some of the cultural shifts that are taking place in the art world, not just the fine art world, the auction houses, the museums and the galleries, but now, as you point out, it's become much more democratic, and it's like the old model was the sage on the stage. You had to go there, touch the hem of their garment, and then walk away with a souvenir. And now you're curating your own experience, and you can get it 24/7. You don't have to wait till it shows up on the doorstep or at 6 o'clock news. And the audience is actually much larger because now you have access to, the whole net, that millions of people can have access to your work as opposed to finding it on that sliver of shelf space at Borders.
Yeah.
So when you write then, do you have a sense that it's no longer just going to be limited to what your agent or publisher will, get out there?
Yep, absolutely.
But you're more in charge. You're more in control of it.
Not only you're in charge, which is a big deal, but the level of satisfaction is just increased 1,000%, because I'll put a story up on my website and I'll advertise it on Facebook, and within less than a minute, people are leaving comments.
Yeah.
And so far they're all positive, so I don't have to kill myself, because I do keep that raised blade just in case. But
I can't take it anymore.
But the old days of sending something to an agent who would just, it would take 6 months to respond to you,
yeah.
or an editor who would just send it to the legal department, and then that's another morass, and just everything was always stopped and blocked and negative. And I had one agent who was an extremely good agent with ICM, one of the best. I kind of wish I still had her, but it took me 6 months to get her on the phone one time. I left message after message after message. Finally, she called me back, and she was kind of imperious, and she said, Christina, I have a lot of very important writers, i.e. not like you.
The inference, right?
And she said, you can't just expect me to call you back just because you leave messages. And I was like, Heather, I'm trying to fire you. I just wanted to fire you. I could have left it in a message, but I thought that was impolite. And the reason I fired her, even though I'm sure I was just being hot-headed, she's a bitch. But other than that, which I'm a bitch too, so I really wouldn't hold that against anyone. But the reason I fired her is because 6 months before, when she had bothered to speak to me, she said I should write about lipstick. And I was like, have we met in person? It's not a fit. I'm sure some people can do that very well. Not going to be me. So this isn't
one of the cardinal rules write about what you know?
There you go, Michael.
She's suggesting this to you?
Lipstick.
What color? What of all the pop stuff that's happening? I like pop culture. One that you just stop this. This is ridiculous. Like reality TV.
I love reality TV.
Okay, you'd keep that one. What one would you
I love crap. I love, candy for the brain, I'll call it.
Yeah.
I spent about 10 years utterly devoted to Jerry Springer. There isn't a single show I don't know by heart. I know all of the Atlanta housewives, LA housewives. In fact, that's another reason that I moved to Key West, is my thumb was intimately aware of the entire television schedule. I didn't even have to look at the remote control. My thumb was just like, yep, I knew everything. And that was another reason I had to move here, was to try and get
wean off from the tube.
So I don't even have a TV here. I'm so proud of myself.
Well, so you've weaned yourself off of that, which is pretty, talk about brain candy, But I like certain reality shows. But
what do you hate? What's your cultural?
Well, I like the food reality shows. I think they're wonderful. They're creative, and
you mean the chef shows?
Yeah, all of them.
Oh, I don't watch that.
Well, not that I don't like the competition
like the
island. You're not good enough. Right. And you see the dejection. I don't go for that.
You don't? I live for that.
Well, I think that's just
why don't you like that? I like to see humans up against the wall with their emotions.
I think that's artifice. It's fabricated. I like like the diner and dives. The guy goes to some flea bag out in wherever, and gets the greasy